I'm Mike Simlinski, Cantemo North America. Cantemo is the manufacturer of the iconic collaboration media hub, media management super system.
And thank you. I'm Skip Clemens with Backblaze, and we are here in the Scale Logic Media Management Knowledge Zone. And today, Mike and I are going to share some of the best practices at the leading edge of how customers are blending their fast shared storage and cloud storage. And we're going to show you what some of those workflows look like and share some of these best practices and work through in the field. Hybrid cloud workflows. So let's jump on. First of all, for cloud storage, it's Backblaze's cloud storage. And it is, anyone use cloud storage? Who needs to use it? What we're finding is 5 years ago, cloud storage was something that customers were thinking about, doing a pilot on, thinking about integrating. Sometimes had a C-level mandate to go add it to their workflow. Well, today, it turns out the number one reason people adopt the cloud is because it's driving efficiency in their workflow.
It's on.
And I know this because Backblaze just commissioned a report with Team Technology. So we surveyed all the Team Technology user base and asked them, how are you really using cloud? And it was very interesting to see how perspectives have changed over the past several years. It went from something being theoretical, something that was the only a wizard that would write code and knew how to decode and all options could figure out, to something like Backblaze, which is very simple, easy to use, you can sign up in minutes. And the best part is, your storage now is it is so inexpensive, on the order of $5 per terabyte, that you now have unlimited storage to support your workflow. So in that report, the number one feedback that came back from those customers was they were adopting cloud to drive workflow efficiency. And we're going to show you what that means, how customers are bridging shared storage with cloud storage. And by the way, that report will be available from Backblaze soon. So here's what we're talking about. The traditional way of taking raw files and pushing it through a very serial process to get it in a place, first we need to ingest them, get it in a place where they're safe, and then as a team, we work with our fast shared storage, and we collaborate and edit and finish, archive and deliver and share. It's a very long serial process. Well, thanks to cloud, it's now becoming the very fastest and most efficient, really agile content production workflows are looking a lot more like this. So you can even ingest, even on very large format cameras, you can archive immediately on ingest. And now, if cloud down here is your supporting foundation that backs your whole content production workflow, you now have something you will think of as a content archive backplane in the sky that grows to any given size as needed. And now, so let's say in this first example, I ingest files and I archive them immediately. That means now they're safely protected in cloud. If anything should go wrong on the way to processing. And it also means that they immediately, your entire team, no matter where they're based, have access to it, and all of your asset management collaboration tools instantly have access to those. It also means that all of this content that you're building and pushing up and down the cloud can be immediately shared and delivered right from cloud. So this is very much what a lot of our customers are moving to, is this notion of having cloud that is instantly available, very inexpensive content archive background. So one question that often comes up is, hey, I'm adopting cloud, I have shared storage, and I want to get lots of content, clear off space on my shared storage, and move it to something like Backblaze. Well, a really nice way to do that is to go to you sign up in minutes on your Backblaze account, and you click send me something called a Backblaze Fireball. The Fireball is this little device in the lower corner. Has everyone heard the old joke that you can't beat the bandwidth of a FedEx truck? So a lot of time, for a long time, that meant that, hey, if I need files from LA to New York, I stick them on FedEx a lot faster than coming up with. Well, the same sort of notion applies, is that you can move content off of your shared storage up to 70 terabytes at a time onto this device. You simply click the button in your B2 account, We send it to you. You simply rent the device, 30 days. You fill it up. FedEx it back to us. We immediately put it in our data centers, and it shows up extremely quickly in your B2 account. So that answers. That's a really fast way to see your content in the cloud. So why use Backblaze? It really does come down to customers tell us it's cloud storage for creatives because it's simple, it's easy to understand, there are no hidden charges or fees or trailing fees, that sort of thing. If you have data wranglers that are savvy and want to use API, many of our customers use API to do a very clever thing, to do things like build a whole app server infrastructure right on top of Backblaze. It's so inexpensive, they can essentially serve a whole iOS or web app content delivery app directly on top of Backblaze and make it really rich with API. But the best part is that Backblaze is already integrated with a lot of the workflow tools you already use. And one of those that has become really important to a lot of customers is called iconik. It is so when you have these two sort of paradigm shifts meeting in content creation. First is an always available, inexpensive, instantly available content storage in the cloud. But increasingly, you're starting to see the other applications that would traditionally sit on a server and an application in your data center. Those are also moving to cloud. You can have an entire cloud deliver application from the cloud, and now for storage and your workflow application as well, you are getting cloud scale benefits. And for that, you ought to have Mike.
Cool. Thanks, Skip. I think I talk a little louder than Skip does. So, how many here are familiar or have heard of iconik before? Is this your first? Okay. So, what iconik is a culmination of about a decade worth of development from Cantemo. Cantemo started their life as an enterprise media asset management player in the broadcast space. We had a product called the Cantemo Portal. That product still exists and is strong. But what we found about 3-ish years ago were a lot of customers coming to us and saying, hey, Portal's great, but we need to extend these workflows outside of our building, or we need to link multiple different facilities together, or we need to be able to collaborate, share across wide areas. So iconik is born of kind of the requests and the growth of cloud compute, cloud storage, and cloud collaboration within the entertainment industry. So iconik is not taking an existing product that existed pre-cloud and just throwing it into an EC2 container and saying, hey, we got a cloud product now. This is built from the ground up with cloud scale in mind. It's using all modern technologies, using a lot of the same technologies behind the scenes of the biggest guys that you all are using on your phones or social media apps right now. And the idea was to provide a holistic view of all of your media worldwide, wherever it lived, and make that accessible from anywhere at any time. So, the other thing that we really focused on when making iconik was, hey, media is now starting to bleed outside of just production workflows. And so having a really powerful media management system was great, but it was overly complex for a lot of customers that weren't in the production or broadcast space. Anybody here tried to use an enterprise media management system for a 2-user or 3-user facility? It's probably not going to fly. So iconik was also built around the concept of simplicity and speed to entry. Take the core fundamental things that people are looking to do inside media management, get them up and running with that fast, and then allow extensibility after that. Because adoption's a big problem when you have really complicated systems. You know, not many of us can drive 18-speed trucks, but most of us can drive an automatic transmission. Most of us. So the other thing that we really focused on was the idea of integration. So beyond those fundamentals and that easy-to-use startup and go sort of workflow, another thing that is becoming very, very popular within the world of media management is accessibility to other tools. And that comes down to APIs. APIs are application programming interfaces. These are the little things of tossing information around from computer program to computer program easily and in a repeatable and easily usable fashion to extend capabilities. So if you have private applications that you've built in-house, or you're using some other tool that also has an API, more often than not, Iconic can be the tool that can help manage stuff in, manage stuff out, deliver information to other systems, or collect information from other systems. And the other thing is we have this concept of webhooks. Webhooks are pretty modern, but webhooks, so you guys probably know them mostly as push notifications on your phones. But the idea is that you can subscribe to things in Iconic and send programmatic information to any other piece of software in the world that is accepting of webhooks, whether that's your own software or third-party tools that already accept that sort of thing. So start easy, start simple, start fast, but have a foundation and infrastructure to be able to grow exceptionally large with exceptional customizations over time. And the other thing that we found is that a lot of our customers were saying, yeah, cloud's great and all that, but we don't work in the cloud. We work on SANs, we work on NASs, we work on production storage. And so how do we bridge that gap and make a tool that works across the board? And we kind of talked about this whole concept of a hybrid cloud workflow, and this is where our Iconic storage gateway comes in. It's a very little simple piece of software that sits on premise and watches and indexes your local high-speed production storage, your Scale Logic, Genesis platform storage, and then builds proxies locally, so you never necessarily have to upload high-resolution content into the cloud unless you want to, for workflows that require it. And that means that you still have global access to all of your information, whether it lives in the cloud or on-prem. And even better is that these things can be scaled and run on multiple different locations. The brains for Iconic live in the center, up in the middle of the cloud. The storage gateways can live wherever you want. So if you have a facility that has multiple different sites, you can have a storage gateway at each site looking at multiple different SANs and have one portal worldwide to look at all of that content, in addition to your Backblaze storage in the cloud or any other cloud storage as well. So why Iconic? It's pretty simple, similar to the Backblaze slide, if you guys notice. It's easy. You can get up and running relatively quickly. It is relatively inexpensive as well compared to most of our competition. The pricing model for Iconic is based on consumption. You guys are probably familiar with that if you have used cloud storage in some way, shape, or form. But there hasn't been another media management company that's done it this way. So you're only paying for what you actually use. If you're a small work group with only a couple of people, you're not paying a whole heck of a lot of money for it. And as you grow your business to use it more and more and more, you're only paying for what you're actually using. So you're not cutting six-figure checks to walk in the door to get things rolling with Iconic. You can roll it out slow, use it the way you want to use it, do proof of concept, validate that it's going to work for your environment, and then scale up as necessary. And then the last is our third-party integrations. Because of our API and because of our webhooks capability, there are a lot of different ways you can integrate Iconic into other systems. So with that said, here's kind of an example infrastructure with Iconic. So Iconic sits in the middle, and it can look at data on any of your different storage locations. So we can have 3 different physical sites, each with their own SANs: New York, Texas, Los Angeles, whatever. We can also have a variety of different cloud storages: Backblaze, Google, Amazon, Azure. And one central location can provide searchability, movability, transferability in and out of all of those, and give you a nice clean interface to do so. So with that said, we kind of ripped through that pretty quick. We are, the Cantemo booth is SL60 something or other. It's right behind the facilities booth, right up there. And Backblaze is?
Backblaze is 14216 right down there. And we're also showing Backblaze.
So any questions from the crowd?
I had a question about increasing file sizes and file resolutions. In your opinion, as those file resolutions continue to grow, how is storage and media management going to have to change?
So to a certain extent, storage tiering is becoming a very popular thing. That you're going to hear a lot of people in this hall talking about storage tiering. And that's saying by the appropriate amount of storage for the functionality you need and the speed that is necessary for that kind of classification. So when you're in production, and I hit space on a 3-channel playlist or a timeline with 4K content that's ProRes XQ HDR, I want it to play back without dropping frames and stuttering. So guess what? That's not going to happen with Backblaze. Not going to happen. But I don't want to spend that kind of money to keep that stuff on the shelf for the next 10 years because that's really silly. So I'm not going to use an SSD class Genesis to do that. And the real beauty is when you have something like iconik sitting in the middle, it can help you manage that movement without you losing where stuff is. So having a management layer that's agnostic. You'll see a lot of people in this room also, they have their management layers, but they're not agnostic. They don't talk to everything. They talk to their tool set and maybe one other one, and then you get shoehorned in. So 5 years down the road, when some cool new technology comes out, you don't really have an option to migrate and rotate things around without losing your organizational structure. So iconik becomes the library in the cloud that keeps track of your stuff through its entire data lifecycle, from the minute it gets ingested all the way to the end when it gets archived and shoved off to the side, and even through deletion, managing, getting rid of stuff that's literally not useful anymore to keep around.
No matter the file size, no matter the resolution, the great scale, you have that.
Absolutely. And so this is a story, one of our integrators in Los Angeles has actually started doing a reverse cloud workflow because obviously there's a lot of production in Los Angeles, and you guys weren't aware of that. And so he has a data center with a 20 gigabit pipe into the cloud, and couriers can drop off dailies to the cloud, or to his facility, and they will be ingested into Backblaze, logged into iconik, and then people on the other side of the country have dailies access. And then he's built a little automation around that that delivers it down to their SAN overnight, so that when they get in the next day, they can see the data that flowed through because it did have the download process. So it's completely opposite of the way most people think about working with data. Most often, if you're in a moderate-sized facility, production is not the same team as editorial or post. It can be in a lot of places, but it's not in most businesses. So why do we always assume that it has to flow that way? Right?
Yeah, isn't it true, Mike? I'm asking you a question. So some of these new really high resolutions, iconik can do something really interesting. So say one of your facilities, say the LA is really fast, so I'm ingesting really high resolution content, and I can make iconik so flexible. I can make proxies right there. Also, composable iconik. And iconik seems very unique in that it can bridge content across all of the pieces of storage you mentioned. Every other team that's remote can now work directly on it.
Yeah, so the other thing that it does have going for it right now is a proxy workflow within Premiere, and coming very shortly within Final Cut X as well. We're showing off our Final Cut X workflow panel in the booth. If you send content into your NLE toolkit, within our iconik panel, we have the option of sending just the low resolution and then doing a reconnect when you send that project to the place where the physical storage lives. So if I had a SAN in, Kansas, and I needed to get editorial done in Florida, I can check all that stuff in, proxies get generated and uploaded relatively quickly. All the shot selection, rough cut, and workflow could happen by somebody sitting in their house in Florida. They can check the project back into iconik, and then somebody in Kansas can then grab just that very small project file in iconik, say reconnect all that media, and it'll go link it all up to the SAM. It's local, and then you do your finish at that point. So the wide collaboration capabilities aren't just for sharing things, review and approve, commenting, but it's actually true editorial.
And this is really paying off this notion of the hybrid cloud workflow, where when the application and collaboration tools are in the cloud, your storage is in the cloud, and you have great control over your fast production storage on site, now it all starts to pay off. You can start really weaving teams into really productive workflows. And iconik becomes this sort of OS or dashboard across everything in the cloud.
Any other questions out there? All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming and sitting, and come check out the products. There's obviously demos in both locations for iconik, and then we've actually got Backblaze storage hooked up to our iconik in the booth. So, thanks.